Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10:30 a.m. session of the 2024 Open Simulator Community Conference. In this session, we're pleased to introduce the presentation Virtual World Play, Neuroplasticity, Transfer of Learning, and Discovery Learning. Our speaker is Xenon Darrow, Virginia Dickenson. Xenon Darrow has been in virtual worlds since 2006 and in OpenSim for 3.5 years. She's the founder of Wolf Tech, Wolf Territories educational community, as well as the Wolf Territories ambassador for the VWEC Virtual Worlds Education Consortium. Xenon is a real-life instructor designer at a major medical school, often using AI and virtual world media for content and design. Please check out the website found at conference.opensimulator.org for speaker bios, details of sessions, and the full schedule of events. The session is being live streamed and recorded, so if you have any questions or comments during the session, you may send tweets to OpenSimCC with the hashtag OSCC24. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin the session.
Hi, everybody. This is Xenon Darrow and Virginia Dickenson in real life. I'm so privileged to be here in front of all of you. So a couple of things. I don't do podiums. I walk around in real life, and I'm going to do my best to walk around in here. Sorry for any wardrobe malfunctions earlier. It's the open sim grid, so have so much fun. And I don't mean Oz grid, I mean we're on the open sim, so things get crazy. So let me begin. I'm just going to move right into this. And the first thing I want to start with is, the term neuroplasticity, see, I stumbled over it as well, is a term that's kind of come to the forefront in more recent years, right? So back in the days when I was in grad school and even through my career as a consultant and in higher education, I didn't hear the term bandied about, right? Neuroplasticity. And now it's everywhere, right? And I think part of that is because I am part of an aging population. I'm 60, but I tell people my avatar can stay young and beautiful forever. I'm 60, but I notice that when I talk to people, and I notice when I talk to other people, we're kind of ageless that way. If we're in the virtual world, you hear what's in a person's voice. So I want to say something about that in terms of what is neuroplasticity and why is it relevant to the virtual world. So Wenger and Kuhn in 2021 tried to clarify neuroplasticity for kind of the mainstream. And they said, neuroplasticity denotes the inherent ability of the brain to adapt with macro scale changes in response to altered environmental commands. That is fancy, right? And I tell people, I don't consider myself an educator. I mean, I am an educator, but I refer to myself as a learning environmentalist because what I do in my field and in the virtual world is I create environments in which people learn naturally. And we do learn naturally all the time. Every time you go to Google, every time you go to look anything up in a book, anytime you come in here and you're learning a skill, which is going to become very relevant in what I'm speaking about, you are exercising your neuroplasticity and you're making it better and better and faster and faster. So Klein and Jones in 2008 said this in one of their journal articles. Neuroplasticity is believed to be the basis for both learning in the intact brain and relearning in the damaged brain that occurs through physical rehabilitation. So what does that really mean? What are they saying? They're saying that you can build new pathways in your brain, whether your brain is currently healthy or whether you've been injured. It doesn't matter because that's how powerful our brains are. And we actually have the capability to physiologically change them through exercising our neuroplasticity. And I really like that term, exercising. And by the way, Beth, I love that you said that to your middle schoolers, and that's part of what makes me passionate as an educator, and clearly you passionate, is because being able to impart to people, hey, you can make a difference for others and you can make a difference for yourself. So what are the activities that really promote neuroplasticity? Things like reading, creating art is a big one, learning any kind of new skills, playing puzzles and games, including video games, meditation, expanding your vocabulary, learning a new language. I'm actually going and using Duolingo now. I'm kind of addicted to it, and they use a gamification model. And there's many, many activities, basically anything that you're doing that engages your cognition at a higher level is building new synapses, and you're creating a positive transfer of learning most of the time. Okay. So as we look over here, I'm going to move. I'm actually going to walk and we'll see how well that works. Look at me go. Okay. So here we're going to take a look at, what video games, MMOs, and RPGs, and are they really relevant, right? And I think a lot of you already know this. I mean, you know that open sim and virtual worlds are relevant to you, but we hear a lot. I know, right? It's the fab. We're hear a lot from particularly my generation and slightly older, that video games are a waste of time. They're unhealthy. All these unhealthy things happen. And I'm not here to say that video games are perfect, but no learning environment is perfect, right? So here in the States, our military has long been involved with using assessment in video games for recruitment. And in 2021, in 2020, there was a well-established U.S. Army group, and it's an esports group, and they're still in existence. And they use a team of elite game players that they have selected. And they use Call of Duty, Battlefield, and similar military strategy video games to recruit. Now, I don't know if you've had any relatives. Some of you may have been in the military before, and I don't know if you've had any relatives who have recently been in the military, but when you go into the military and they're recruiting you and you fill out your application, there are fields where they ask you, what video games do you play and what's your proficiency, what level do you play? And at the beginning of your stint, they're actually going to assess how proficient you are, okay? But they can actually, yes, exactly, Call of Duty, Battlefield, but also they'll use anything that basically uses strategy and teamwork, not just the FPS, the first person shooter skills and the punch, kick, kill. They'll look at things that involve strategy in other ways, like Grand Theft Auto. I know there's a lot of punch, kick, kill and first person shooter in that as well, but they're also looking at these MMOs where people have to strategize. And then we have instances where video games are designed to teach us something. In addition to, like, we're seeing that the objectives of the game are tied into primary and secondary learning objectives that are outside the game, right? So I don't know if y'all are familiar with Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, but on that game, and now, by the way, they're into like their third iteration, so it's been wildly popular. There was a neuroscientist in Cambridge, and he's a neuroscientist as well as a psychosis expert. And that game is designed to give you an experience of what it's like to be schizophrenic and having a psychotic break. So you're in there, this character is in grief, right? She's in terrible grief and she's hallucinating and she's hearing voices and everything is very dark for her. And you're really seeing this from the perspective of the avatar, of the character. And the game successfully promotes empathy. It promotes self-awareness. If you have psychosis issues, it's a fantastic success. By the way, it was about $8 million to produce, which is teeny tiny in the world we're talking about. And I have a personal experience with a game called Dust 514. It actually was part of the EVE Online universe, and they melded it. It doesn't exist by itself anymore. It was put out in 2013, and one of my good friends who worked for me at the time, as a handy guy, right? Um, Young guy in his 20s, very bohemian, eschewing all things corporate, right? And he got involved in the pre-launch of this game, which was fascinating to me as a business person. I had a consultancy, and the way they were marketing and the way they were involving people. And he goes into this game, they put their team together. They're big, all of them have this experience, they're big strategists, and they begin to recruit. Before he begins to recruit, he becomes the recruiter, and he comes to me and says, this is what I'm doing. So we lay out a plan for him, and we talked about doing the money ball strategy as opposed to the super ball strategy. So they build a money ball group, a group that has synergy instead of being focused on one or two major guys, right? And over a few months, they grow themselves, but not huge. They are very careful to recruit internationally in such a way that when they do acquire holdings, they're covered 24/7. So that's a big strategy, right? I have a team in the South Pacific, and then that South Pacific team waits till all the Americans are asleep, and then they go take their stuff. And they fix it. And then he does an espionage recruiting campaign for spies, and I help him define that. And when this was all done in a few months, no huge teams would challenge them. Like they'd basically come into an area and they'd just go take it, right? Just go. It wasn't even fun anymore because they were so successful. And at the end, he's telling me the things he's doing. He's the recruiter, he's the enforcer, he's the manager, he designed training programs. And I just looked at him and said, oh, you're a human resources director. Like, and it hit him. These skills that he's learning, that he's creating for himself in this game, are the skills you would use in this position. And for me personally, that personal experience demonstrated the power of positive transfer learning through this game. And by the way, that game is a great example of almost pure discovery theory in action, pure discovery learning. These guys started with nothing except their previous experience, and they had to figure out how to do this. He knew nothing about being a human resources director, but he created that for himself. And that's action learning, right? And how often do you see that anymore as a deliberate strategy? Like the term isn't even popular. So I became absolutely fascinated with this. What is it? How are we taking for granted these beautiful discovery learning environments? I love that y'all are commenting. You have no idea how much joy that gives me to hear y'all commenting about this stuff. I think it's fabulous. And I'm going to wander around a little bit because I'm looking at myself backwards. Okay. So I want to move into the next piece of this, which I need my notes up. So guess what? I get to quote myself. I'm so excited about this. So I did a part of a textbook chapter that I co-authored last year, and this was concerned with multi-generational learning in higher education. I'm an instructor, an instructional designer for a major medical school, and that's why they were asking me about this. So this is talking about the differences between like boomers and Gen Xers as students in higher education. And in the school where I work, the majority of students are in the younger millennial range. I work with a school of nursing, and even younger than that. So yeah, we have boomers and Gen Xers, but they make up a much smaller portion of the student population. And in the courses I design, I expect to see a larger population in the millennial range with significantly fewer. And this is actually from the book. What I'm telling you is what I wrote. In my course, I expect to see a larger population in the millennial range with significantly fewer boomers and Gen Xers based on the corporate population to whom the course is designed to appeal. The exception to this may be demonstrated in the virtual world population of OpenSim, where I am developing the course components and where the average age of the population appears to be in the 54 to 57 range. The very early adopters of video games who tired of the monetization in other virtual worlds and MMOs, massive multiplayer online. Okay. So that's you guys. You're in a textbook chapter. I'm talking about you. I'm excited about that. Okay. And I meet people throughout the hypergrid. And what I know is how much they take themselves for granted. You have no idea. If you're here, number one, if you're an OpenSim, you represent something in terms of learning and neuroplasticity. And I'm going to get into that in just a bit, okay, really briefly. But also, you represent, if you're over 55 in here, you represent an anomaly. You're an anomaly. And I believe everyone I know that's even older than me here takes it for granted. Brilliant artists, brilliant landscapers, okay? Brilliant script manipulators. And they all like, it's nothing, right? It's just some stuff I do. It's not, there's a huge lack of valuing. It's amazing the things that you learn. And I see this, and then the other thing I notice is like no fear of tech, right? Like, oh, I'll just go learn this new thing in Blender. Oh, I'll learn how to use DAZ 3D, right? Yes, Beth, you are a lifelong anomaly. That is absolutely right. So I was very happy that a couple of people jumped up and they said, hey, we're going to share with you. I'm hoping I can do a real study on this, but we're going to share with you about what our population is, right? And this is very generic. There's no critical information here about individuals. So one grid has 1,600 accounts. The average age in there is 59, the average. Now, to give you an idea of what that looks like, the age range is 32 to 71. So if I have an age range, which is a big range, right? A big range. To be 59, how many people, what's the disproportionate number of people that are in that older range? That's huge. Now I'm going to qualify this, right? Because how many alts do you have? I have 4 right now. Okay. And I'm going to say I'm kind of a alt pig. So let's say that 4, but let's be generous, right? Let's say everybody has 4 alts. We're still looking at a sample size of 400. That's significant. And on top of that, my experience has been people don't lie about their age on their alts. They may alter it, 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 years, but they're still going to represent that skew. That skew, I believe, is real. Okay. Like I said, I'm 60.
I hate
okay?
to interrupt, Xenon, but you have 1 minute left.
Okay, got it. All right, so what are some of the things about virtual worlds that are different from video games? Freedom versus restrictions, you're an author versus a reader, you get to create instead of be determined, and most importantly, you're coming down with meaningful skill building that creates a positive transfer of learning. We're seeing Albert Bandera's social learning theory in action. We get to see Skinnerian work at action. We get to see discovery learning, and you are doing the discovery learning. Discovery learning is the underpinning of OpenSim. And I'm going to leave it at that. My timeline and my personal stuff, you can always come talk to me about it. Okay. I'll never shut up. A little blurb, as you can see, that last slide is about the Wolf Tech Conference coming up in January. We're looking for fabulous poster sessions and some speakers. If you click on that, it will give you the citations from this presentation and also some landmarks to go visit some of our great, organization areas, and then the link to apply to be a speaker or presenter and come to the conference. So thank you. Y'all were awesome.
Thank you,
I hope I didn't put you to
Xenon.
sleep.
And you raised a big discussion in text chat about being abnormal or normal or anomalies.
I like
Thank you ever so much for
anomalies.
this input. Wonderful.
You are
Thank
you are all wonderful anomalies. Thank you.
Thank you, Xenon and Darrow, for this informative and very interesting presentation. As a reminder to our audience, You will want to check out conference.opensimulator.org to see what's coming up on the conference schedule. You won't want to miss our next session, which will begin at 10:30 in this keynote region and is entitled Chain of Thought, AI, the Condor of Mind. Also, we encourage you to visit the OSCC Poster Expo in the OSCC Expo 3 region to find accompanying information on presentations and explore the hypergrid resources in OSCC Expo 2 region, along with sponsor and crowdfunder booths located throughout all of the OSCC Expo regions. Thank you again to our speakers and the audience.